Hi, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. We have a lot of people that are still logging in, but I always believe in starting on time for those of you that arrived on time. And today's a very important topic. We're talking about the impact of training. There's three very important current workforce realities. And as we all know, the workforce and the workplace has really changed over the last couple of years. The first thing that's a very important reality is that over 50% of the workforce are millennials and Gen Z. Another crazy statistic is by the year 2025. I remember saying this 10 years ago and thinking it was 10 years off. Well, now it's like a year and a half off. By 2025, over 70% of the workforce are going to be millennials and Gen Z. And these two generations put professional and personal development as a top priority. That's what's going to make them accept a job. That's what's going to get them engaged, and it's going to make them stay with their companies if they're getting trained. Consistent training does improve engagement, retention, and the level of success that people attain. If you want to attract, engage, and retain your employees, offering consistent training is no longer optional. In fact, during interviews, and those of you that are working in the staffing and recruiting profession, I know every time we're writing a contract or a job order, we're asking about what is a career path, what is the training, that you're offering, because candidates are asking us about that. Training is also the one investment that companies make that provide them with the greatest return on investment. And again, what worked 2 years ago is not working now. Even the tried and true fundamentals of what you and I do for a living, what worked 2 years ago is not working right now, just because the workforce and workplace has changed so dramatically, so dramatically. Let's talk about most training programs and what the shortcomings are. There's a tremendous amount of information, usually that is provided in a short period of time, and only 5% is retained. I've been told that as a speaker, that when I speak at a conference, I'm told that less than 5% of the audience is going to do anything that I've taught them, and only 5% of the information I'm sharing is going to be retained. And so if you currently offer training in your company and it's like a 1 week, a 2 week program, what happens is I want you to understand that it's information overload. And usually less than 5% of what you're teaching somebody when it's very intensive training is retained. Secondly, often training is provided by a revenue generator. Most staffing and recruiting firms, the average staffing and recruiting firm in the United States has 7 employees, including the owner. And so often when you hire somebody new, training is provided by one of your revenue generators or by you. And that of course, costs lost revenue because the person that's training is not producing because they're training. Most training is obtained on the job. And the problem with that is, and you and I both know, that after a while, people develop good habits and they develop bad habits. And so if you put somebody through an initial training program and then they're just kind of watching what's being done around them, they're picking up the good habits, but they're also picking up the bad habits. And too often, content and training program is dated due to the ever-changing workforce and workplace. I just talked to a franchise organization about an hour ago. And because I do training for LinkedIn, I have access to their big data. And we just talked about the changes that have happened in the last 90 days and how so much of what worked, 6 months ago is not working right now. For instance, pitching jobs is not working. In-mails are not being answered because of what they're saying. We have an 85% open rate on our in-mails, but we've changed the way we do them. Most voicemails are not being answered. 84% of emails are not being responded to. And so how do you get your email to be responded to? Your recruiters and your account executives have to communicate, and communication has really changed. And if your training has not changed even since the last 6 months, chances are you're not teaching them what's working right now. Experienced producers often take shortcuts. And it's so funny because when I train at conferences, I have experienced people come up and go, you know what? There's things I forgot that I used to do that were very successful. And I just started taking shortcuts. And now I'm wondering why I'm staying at the same level. I look at everybody that's in our profession sort of like a plant. I want you to think about a plant for a moment. A plant is either growing or dying. A plant is never staying the same. If you water it and fertilize it and take care of it, it will grow. If you don't, it will die. The same thing happens with your team members. They're either growing or they'll start going the opposite direction. Have you ever had someone work for you? They're a great producer, and all of a sudden they start going the opposite direction. It's because what they're doing is no longer working. And that's why ongoing training is so important. I studied training programs before I developed anything when I first got into training. And I studied some of the best training programs. Boot camp was one of them in the military. I wondered why boot camp took so long, why the armed services have never changed what they're doing. And I studied other training programs worldwide. And the best training programs had 5 common denominators. They would give small amounts of training over a longer period of time. And they would repeat certain things. The things that they wanted people to really learn, they would repeat through the whole process. They require that people take daily notes. If somebody is in a training program for you, whether you utilize our training or you're looking at your own training program right now, make sure that as people are learning from you, that they're taking daily notes. Because when people write down what they've learned, they retain it more. You've got to test people on whatever you're teaching them. You could hold a training session, but unless you train people afterwards, often you thought that they heard what you said, but they went through their own filters and the way they view things, and they didn't understand what you said at all. And so the only way to know if something, is being retained, if the training you're offering is being retained, is you have to offer tests. It's interesting because I do training for several certification programs. And anytime I'm doing a continuing ed course for continuing ed, whether I'm doing it for LinkedIn Learning or TechServe or NAPS, any of the certification programs, anytime you're doing something for continuing education, they require that you at least ask 12 questions, because they know that unless somebody can pass a test, there's no guarantee they've really understood what you've just taught them. It also helps to have live continued weekly training. So often it's interesting. I have owners come to me all the time about training, and they always want to train their rookies. They always want to train the new hires. And I always mention to them, I go, what about your senior people? And they go, well, they're doing well. I am telling you, it is just as important to train your tenured people as it is to train your rookies, because things are changing too fast. They're just changing too fast. A year ago, when I was looking at all of our training, I ended up rewriting everything. I started from scratch, because even the fundamentals that were tried and true, that we knew if you did certain things, you were going to succeed, many of those have been altered because of all the changes going on. There should also be coaching calls. You should, whatever kind of training program you have to allow the people that work for you to just ask questions. A coaching call is not when you're training anybody, you're just letting people ask you questions. And then everybody that's participating is also learning by the questions other people are asking. And so when I looked at the best training programs out there, these were kind of the 5 common denominators that really resulted in the greatest bump in success, the greatest bump in their career advancement. Now, I've learned some lessons from LinkedIn. I've been training for LinkedIn Learning for 5 years, and boy, has it changed from the first time I did a course for them to the last course that I did for them that I actually recorded in my home. When I first went to train for LinkedIn, they only wanted videos. They said people don't want to read, and this was 5 years ago, but our videos were 15 minutes long. And then they kept shortening the length of the videos. And this last course that I did for LinkedIn, the videos were all less than 5 minutes long, because individuals don't want to watch long videos, but they also don't want to read. Last year, my plan was to update all my training and all of my courses. Again, I've updated them, but I put everything in video, because I've realized that people would much rather watch a video when it's convenient for them than to read something you want them to read. And it was interesting, because when I did all these videos thinking I'm going to be on top of everything, and then I went to load them on my learning management system, and I almost blew it up. I'm technical, but I was not considering at all the bandwidth of videos versus the bandwidth of written materials. Obviously, you need a much more robust system to house videos. But even when you're recruiting, when you're promoting your company, when you're recruiting, when you're doing client development, if you're not including videos, this is probably the best lesson I learned from LinkedIn Learning, is people just react to videos. Look at YouTube. It's so funny, and I don't know what I did before YouTube. I don't know about you, but every time I'm going to learn something new, I watch a YouTube video and it walks me through it. I guess, years ago we went to the encyclopedia, we read things, but watching somebody do something, having them walk you through a step-by-step process, that is really vitally important. And again, if you don't have video on your website, you don't have video that you're sharing with candidates, you don't have videos that you're sharing with your clients, that's something you need to change. And it doesn't have to be formal. Videos done by your employees on their mobile devices is just as effective if you go to a formal studio and get a video done. People react to real people. They want to work with people. They want to learn from people. They want to work for people that are real, that they can relate to. It's interesting because all I want to do whenever I'm interacting with any one of you is to understand your goals and objectives. And my whole goal is to help your company grow. And it's interesting because right now, should you be doing 10% more than you did last year? No. Last year, you should have had a record year. And this year, you should be looking to increase your revenue by 25%, 30%, if not more. We would love to talk to you to see what you're trying to achieve. We might be your solution, we might not, but if we're not, we'll give you information that will help you. If you'd like to set up an appointment with one of our experts to just discuss what's important to you, please scan that QR code, or you can call the number right there and ask us any questions you want. Now, I believe a picture is worth 1,000 words, so to save time, I want to show you some screenshots of something that I've just developed, okay? All of you know I've had tutors for years, but again, everything has changed out there, so we change too. And whether you decide to invest in something that we offer or you want to do something on your own, the information I'm going to share with you is going to help you. You've got to make things simple. This is actually a screenshot of our learning management system. And when people log into this, you see they just use a username and a password and they're in. So you have to develop something that is a no-brainer. And then once they put it in, they click on Remember Me, where they don't even have to log in. They just go into the system. It's interesting because this is a sampling of our homepage. And you can see on the left-hand side where the red check marks are, as people are taking courses, like, this happens to be our contract tutor, our contract staffing recruiting tutor. So in the first lesson was make it big in contract staffing. This person got done, so it was checked off. What is the new business model? What about terminology? And now you see a lesson up there, pre-close and closing candidates, because again, I don't think often our people need to realize they have to pre-close from the very first conversation with people. And here's a sampling of a lesson. This particular lesson, our lessons range in length from 5 minutes to 30 minutes at the most. And 30 minutes is when we're doing things like terminology that take a long time. People like training where they can log in when it's convenient for them, where they can do it at their own time. And you notice they can either read the lesson or they can click on these 2 videos. And they can watch the videos, and you can see one video is 6 minutes, one video is 5 minutes, because I've learned videos have to be short. If you want your people to learn, they have to be able to watch short videos. Now, they do take daily notes. They're going to get action items, and their action items are going to tell them to finish the lesson, and to learn what they're learning. But then every day they've got to write down notes, what they've learned, because remember, the most successful training programs make people write down what they've learned. They don't learn a tremendous amount of information every day. They learn key points and then they write down what they learned. And to make sure to put accountability, our lessons won't flip over unless somebody put down what they learned. So if you enroll somebody in one of our tutors, they have to write down what they learned, or when they get to there the next day and they log in, they're still on the same lesson and they're on this page asking them for notes of what they learned the day before. We also have tests. And what's great about the tests, they're multiple choice, they're true and false, and they automatically score. So at the end of every week, you don't have to score something. Everybody that works for you gets a test. The tests score automatically. And if they don't score 80% or better on the test, they have to retake the test. It'll show them what they got wrong, and they have to go back to the lesson and get the right information so they can retake the test. And again, they have to pass the test before they can go on. The nice part about this is you as an owner or manager, you can see exactly where they are. You can see how many courses they've taken and what they've done. So this is very self-paced. You don't have to be involved in it. You can just offer this to your team, but you can see where they are and you can see how they're doing. Now, in addition, We give participants access to other things. We have a very comprehensive library. So say you have somebody working for you and they just need training on time management. They can't manage their time. They could go into the library and just listen to courses on time management, not even taking the tutor course, but they can get spot training by clicking on one of these folders. We also give copies of every form we have, every form we use, and you can customize it for your company. We also provide scripts for everything. What's a voicemail that gets answered? What about templates for in-mails? I actually did training for a team at LinkedIn because people were dropping LinkedIn Recruiter because nobody was opening in-mails. We have over an 80% in-mail open rate. And so they asked what we were doing. So we share those scripts with you. These are in-mails that will be open. These are emails that will be open. These are scripts that work. And so in addition to the training, you get copies of all our forms, all our scripts, and we give you additional resources. For instance, candidate expectations. You know, every time we talk to somebody, we send them a list of this is what you can expect from us, and this is what we need from you to help you advance in your career. The beautiful part about this, it eliminates confusion. We give you a copy. You can see also below there's a candidate debrief form. We have over 20 forms we give you copies of. In addition, there are live weekly training calls. Like the call I just did, and this was a manager call. On the 1st and 5th Wednesdays of every month, I do owner-manager calls. So our owner-manager call on March 29th was conflict resolution. You know, we hire assertive people that are paid based on performance. There's going to be conflicts. And so we talked about exactly how to resolve who owns a candidate, who owns a client, what happens, you know, if there's conflict in the office. That's a typical topic that we do for owner managers. So we're not only training your team on the 1st and 5th Wednesdays of every month, we're training owners and managers as well. And we didn't do that at first, but owners and managers came back to us and said, can you please do calls for us because we want to learn too. Now, the interesting part about this is you might be going, this has to cost a fortune. No, once you invest in our tutor, once you own a tutor, the total cost to train your employees is a one-time charge of $50 per person per course. And imagine that for as long as someone works for you, they have access to the courses, they have access to the library. We become your weekly training calls. And we do coaching calls where they can answer their questions. You know, and it's a comprehensive, turnkey, consistent training program for everyone that works for you. Once again, that we know what's important to you, we can help you achieve your goals and objectives. Again, if you want to scan that QR code, or please write down that number. Write down that number that you see in front of you, and you can ask us any questions you want, and we'd be glad to answer them. Now, we have different tutors, and I did this, again, these were all written last year. We just launched these last month. We have different tutors based on your needs. If you do contract staffing, we broke it down to recruiting and sales training. They're each 32 lessons. We have temporary staffing, recruiting, and sales. They're each 32 lessons. And we have a direct hire, client development, and recruiting tutor. Those are 40 lessons each. We also were getting many requests from you. In fact, I'll be honest with you, in the last year where I've spent most of my time consulting was teaching direct hire firms how to add flexible staffing because of the recurring revenue model. If you intend to sell your business, you need to be doing temporary or contract staffing. We also had all the staffing companies ask me how to teach them how to do direct hire because these are different business models. And so if you only do flexible staffing or you only do direct hire and you want to be a blended firm, we have these two tutors that literally, I took what I was teaching people in the last year and it was costing them thousands of dollars because they were using me as a consultant once a week to teach them how to do this. So I put everything I was teaching them down in writing, and you can literally buy one of these tutors and it'll teach you how to either add flexible staffing or add direct hire. Our tutor clients have all experienced increased sales and profits. And so the training has improved the retention of new hires and experienced recruiters and account executives. So we have a great track record, you know, and I'm on the phones live. Think about this. I'm on the phones live with my clients 7 times a month with my tutor clients. If they weren't experiencing success, they would let me know on those calls because I unmute their lines and let them talk. And so it's amazing. It's amazing. But, we've had great success with everyone. In fact, it was interesting. On a coaching call 2 weeks ago, I had a recruiter tell me that he had lost a placement of over $32,000, that he blew it. And so during the coaching call, he walked me through what he did. And I said, is the client still upset that the candidate didn't accept the job? And he goes, very upset. I said, is your candidate still interested in the job? And he said, yes, but we've got too many problems. And I said, why don't we try this? And I walked him through what to say to the client and what to say to the candidate. And he went back and did it and called me within 2 hours, and he put the deal together. It was a $32,000 placement. Your people can bring me issues and get problems. One more benefit of I believe of our training program is so often you can teach your people the same strategies that I do, but when they hear it from a stranger, they do it. When I do in-house training, I was in this group once and it was so funny. The owner said, Barb, you need the URL. What would Barb do? Because when you say something, they listen. When we say something, it's like, oh, there you are talking again. Hearing another person tell them the same things you're telling them sometimes is just more impactful. Also, on the coaching calls, they hear people asking me questions. Last October, I had a woman on the phone saying she was very upset. She was at $840,000 in direct hire production. She wanted to do $1 million in 2022, and she didn't think she was going to hit it. And I had other people on that coaching call go, are you kidding me? She's complaining about producing 840 and it's October. And I go, right, but she wanted to do $1 million this year. It was great for people to hear that. Sometimes all your people, they get really, it's almost like they just hear your company. When they hear other people asking me questions, sometimes they don't even understand the questions. So it's a great learning experience when they attend the coaching calls. Now, I always promise to keep these calls to 30 minutes, and I do want to take your questions. And so I will let all of you know that we are offering 25% off of our pricing for anybody on this webinar. But the first 5 people that sign up for one of our tutors, we're also going to give you 5 free seats. So you can put 5 people in your tutor for free. Rather than paying the $50 seat charge, we will give you 5 seats plus 25% off our tutor. And so if you want to be one of the 5, I've given you Jody. She's my VP of sales, and she loves that I did this today. That's her cell phone. And so if you want to be one of the first 5, you might have additional questions for her. But if you're interested and you want to be one of the first 5, call Jody at that number and put your name on a list so that she knows who the first 5 are. Because again, anybody that does invest, we're going to, because we just launched this, anybody that invests by April 15th, isn't that a funny date, tax day? But I want you to all think about your first quarter. Think about the first quarter this year. We're just ending it. Did all of your people hit or surpass their goals? Are you happy as an owner? Are you hitting the numbers that you want? When you look at the sales of your company in 2022, were you happy with the total sales of your company? And more importantly, were you happy with the profits? Or do you really want to grow your company? Providing great training is one of the most assured ways that you're going to start hitting your numbers and you're going to start increasing production and, more importantly, profits. Because those of you that are in temp and contract, the sales that your gross sales are such a false sense of security. It's what profit are you making? All of you are in business as owners to make a profit, not provide jobs for the people that work for you. And if you've ever thought about, should somebody be working for me? People are either a asset to you or a liability. You cannot afford to have people working for you that are not making you money. And sometimes they just don't know what to do. So much has changed. Your recruiters are getting frustrated. So are your account executives, because even what worked 6 months ago is not working right now. And of course, I've got the benefit of talking to the best companies out there. Plus, I get big data from LinkedIn constantly, which helps me anticipate trends that I will always share with you. Anything I learn that LinkedIn will let me share, I share during these weekly calls. And I would love nothing more than to mentor your team for you, because that's what I do on those weekly live calls. So I would welcome anybody that, training does make a major difference in what you're going to do. I've seen companies when they establish new policies, new processes, not increase their sales by 10% or 15%. I've seen companies make a 35, 40% bump in sales. How would your life change if you just filled more of the jobs sitting on the desks of your recruiters and your salespeople? So please click that QR code. Again, we may be your solution, we may not be, but we can give you information. If we're not the solution, we'll tell you where to go, or we'll give you advice during these calls. So is it worth your time to click that QR code and talk to one of my experts? It is, because they will focus that call 100% on your priorities. We have to know what you're trying to do to even know if we can help you. And also, we do customized webinars, we do consulting, we do a lot of other things. If you're not interested in a tutor, but you have a specific problem that you're trying to solve, or you'd like to work with me one-on-one, anything you need, we probably have a solution for. And again, if we don't, we know somebody that can help you, and we give referrals all the time. So I gratefully appreciate all of you being here, and I want to open the lines now for your questions. If you called in, I gave you a PIN number, an access code, and a telephone number. If you put all three numbers in, you can ask me questions. Click on attendees, and you'll see your name, and above your name, there's a little hand. And if you click on that hand, I can unmute your line and you and I can talk. If you'd rather type in a question, you can go down to the bottom where the questions are and type in a question. If you don't want me to use your first name, just put down confidential or anonymous, and I won't use your first name. Okay, the first question, I see no hands. Let me go down to the question, is from Susan. Are you serious? I could train my people for $50 per person per course. That seems relatively cheap. That is once you own the tutor. So you do have to invest in our tutor, but our tutor is not that expensive. And once you buy one tutor, we reduce the price of every future tutor you buy. And so I am telling you, when you figure out the total cost of this, and your people have access to our training as long as they work for you. We get calls from recruiters all the time asking to buy their tutor because they put notes in here. They've got all the forms. They've got everything in here. And so they want access to the training. They try to buy it when they quit. And we go, you can't buy your tutor. That belongs to your owner. And so it's amazing to us that the recruiters that are in here actively, I have people that have been on my weekly calls for probably 10 years plus because they love the weekly training calls. By the way, all the calls are recorded. And so in that library where all those topics are, all of the recorded calls are all the Wednesday calls I'm doing and all the coaching calls I'm doing. Someone's asking the price of the tutor. The base price of our tutor is $18.97. And if you buy another tutor after that, it's $13.97. So it's under $2,000 to own it. And then it's $50 per person. And that's a one-time charge. That's a one-time charge. And so when you look at what they're charging for training, I tried to make the pricing so reasonable that it was a no-brainer. In fact, we actually lowered the prices of our tutors when we rolled out these on a new learning management system to make it affordable for everyone, because we wanted anybody to be able to afford this. And so the base price is $18.97 and then $50 for a seat for your, and again, that's a one-time charge for your people. And they have access to everything we're doing. And oh, one more thing, you give me the topics for the webinars. Like right now, I just wrote the programs for April this last week. Last week, we went out to all of our tutor clients and said, what would you like me to train your people on? And so I got my topics from my tutor clients, and I do that every month. And so I come to you. If you own my tutor, I go to you and say, what do you want me to train your people on? Let me look at my writing schedule. And so the owner manager call for April 5th is, how do you become the company your competition envies? Our next training call, let me find this. The next call on April 12th is the pros and cons of taking risks, teaching your people what risks they should take, both on the recruiting side and client development side. The next program I'm doing in April is April 19th, make your client connections memorable. How do they remember you as opposed to everybody else? Because they're being bombarded now. So what can you do? What can your salespeople do to make every connection they make memorable? The next call is, how do you establish candidate rapport and trust? And how do you triple referrals of top talent? So those are just the calls we're doing during the month of April to give you some idea. But you as an owner, you know, I go out the third week of every month. My team goes out to all the people that own our tutor and ask, what do you want Barb to train on? What do you want Barb to train on? Or if you want to ask the question during the coaching call that you think would help your people and they're on the coaching call, we do that as well. So there's many ways that we interact with you because we want you to get the results you want. let's see. I can't believe it's only $50 per course. I pay more than that for a lot less. And again, they have it, and the $50 gives them the course and access to the forms, access to the scripts, access to the library, and 6 live calls with me a month. And so, again, we tried to price this. I would love this to be the better trained all of us are, the better job we'll do out there, and the more respect we'll gain from clients and candidates. And I keep updating this every week, because I'm doing live calls every week. Once we pay for the tutor, are we able to look at any updated programs? Every time I update it, Darlene, you get it free. All the people that owned my old tutor, the tutor I had before, they got all these new tutors free. So once you buy a tutor from me, any upgrades, like I literally rewrote the entire tutors, put them on a brand new learning management system, and everybody that was enrolled in my old tutors could pick whatever new tutors they wanted to enroll in, and they got everything free. The only thing they're paying additional is they put somebody new in, like they did with the old tutors. So once you own my tutors, any updates, any upgrades, you get free. And that's always been my guarantee. So the first thing we did was we took the hundreds of firms that use our tutors and we converted them over into our new learning management system. And again, it didn't cost them anything, not anything. So yes, you would get the upgrades free. So I hope we can talk to you. If you want to talk to me personally, you can just, you can call our office number. You can go to our Good as Gold website. If you want more information, if you go to goodasgoldtraining.com, all the tutors are there. All the outlines of all the courses are there. So if you want to get more information, but don't buy it from there because we're giving you a 25% discount. That's not on our website. But, if you want to talk to me personally, just call Jody and tell her you'd like to talk to me. Or Jody's worked for me for over 20 years. And so she knows the materials. She had to go through the tutors. She was my top producer and she had to go through the tutors just like everybody else did. Now she's working for my training company because I wanted somebody who understood to be interacting with people that are going to invest in this. But again, please call us. And I would love nothing more than for you to get 25% off and five seats. Let me see if anybody raised their hand. I never understand why people don't raise their hand to talk to me. I'm really easy to talk to. Okay, I've got a question. Can you talk to me offline? You have specific problems. Of course you can. And again, the tutors are not the only thing we have. We've developed all kinds of training products based on, what our clients need. And I survey them constantly to get their feedback. I take my direction from you. You tell me your problems and either we'll be your solution or not. If we're not, we're going to tell you how to solve it. So, the call is definitely worth your time. So I don't see any other questions, and I always try to limit these to 30 minutes because I respect your time. I'm an owner too. So I hope we get the chance to talk to you. I hope you become one of our clients. I would love to see you on our weekly calls and our coaching calls, and I would love to help you help your people become more successful. They're not going to do it for your reasons. They're going to do it for their own, but I can tell them things that you can't as the owner because they don't work for me. So I can be pretty blunt, in the way I handle things. And as a result, they all end up earning more money. And that's what we all want. We all want everybody to be more successful. So thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate every one of you. I appreciate the time you spent with me today. And hopefully we'll have a conversation. We'll have a conversation with one of my experts in the near future. Thanks, everybody.